your relationship. I will be your host, Bonitto Grange, your relationship and life coach. Joining me will be a client of mine that will be giving their testimony of what they have experienced in their session and how things have changed for them. After that, we will be speaking about your authenticity in your relationship. It's all about love, folks, trust, respect, connection, intimacy, communication, and so much more. Until then, enjoy your day and come back one more time to transforming your relationship. I am your host this evening with Bonitto Grange. I'll be interviewing a beautiful couple from Toronto, Ontario, Jenna Lee and Jason. This couple was a client of mine. As we had worked together, their lives began to change little by little. But what caused the biggest change was them willing to put their relationship as a priority. When you put your relationship as a priority, things will start to shift. Things will start to change. From the first time that a phone call is made, it means that an individual have the intention of making things better and not worse. So it takes two to tango. Many times you've heard that. It takes two to tango, but guess what? It takes one to actually change the dynamics. Many times we might expect the other individual to change because if we're changing, they should change too. But in times like these and times when you're being challenged, how about you focusing on yourself first? And as you focus on yourself, I have seen where individuals and their spouse has begun to turn because they were focusing more on themselves more than the other individual. So tonight or this evening, we're going to be interviewing a little bit with Jason and Jenna Lee, a beautiful couple from Toronto, Ontario. Met them some time back. They called me up, and we're going to let them leave the testimony just to show you what transpired, what can happen. So, Jason and Jenna Lee, say hello to the crowd.
Hi.
It's good to see both of you here tonight.
Good to see you.
So what's the weather like down in your part of the country?
It's raining like crazy today.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'd rather the rain because yesterday it was like minus 20 degrees up here.
Oh yeah.
If you didn't have your vehicles plugged in, you might have heard just a little bit, and then she would start. So it's about minus 10 right about now. So that's good weather for this part of the country. It's beautiful.
It's warm over here.
So we're glad you folks are here. And I touched base with you some time back. We had a wonderful time in our sessions that we had at probably extended probably about 3 months or more. So tell me something. We're going to ask just a few questions, and then you can respond accordingly. So, what was actually life before you started working with me? What was your biggest fear?
So life before working with you was for me like a roller coaster, and it was more the downside than the upside. Trying to navigate a relationship. As I was saying before, like I come from a family of like single women, so I'm pretty much the first person in my family to get married. So trying to navigate the relationship on my own in that regard with no help was very difficult for me.
Mm. And how about you, Jason? What would your response be there? What was it like before?
It was very interesting to start, but the reason that we had our issues earlier before, uh, I wouldn't say it was from any single parent issues or upbringing. It was more because of unfortunate accidents that happened with my life, and that made things unmanageable for
Mm.
us, and we needed external help, and that's where you came in.
Mm. So, what do you think at that time? What was your biggest fear that you think even before you came? What was going through your
Continuing
mind?
our relationship with the stress that we've had or were having at the time.
Hmm.
Okay, okay. And many times folks have that fear because, first of all, I didn't know you from before. Um, I believe you were recommended to me here by a friend of mine down in that part of the woods. So, yeah, many times when folks come initially, there's a fear. They don't know what to expect. First of all, you don't even know this guy. So And now I got to tell him my business. Well, you really don't have to tell me your business. It's all about how the process work and how we just move along and trying to iron out some things and get you back to a functional state. So, what did you try? I don't know if you tried different things individually, but what did you try before maybe that didn't work?
We did try to like compromise and try to work together, but I found it was
Mm,
hard for me on my end to work together with him just because like we just have so many differences. So to try to put aside our differences and to compromise was kind of hard to,
mm,
in a way, be selfless and put the other first before yourself.
mm. No, beautiful. How about and Jason, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, at the time we were moving as well, and uh, my wife was pregnant at the time too, and then just trying to settle as well. Those were different stressors that didn't help the situation any further. So
Okay.
that's why we were having more difficulties than we could have imagined at the time.
I And it's interesting because a lot of individuals before they phone, more than enough times, the wife has been saying, "You need to phone someone." Sometime it's 6 months before they finally do. Sometime it's a year. But of late, I'm finding that it's like the wife is giving an ultimatum that okay, so this is it. This is our last kick at the cat, and we're gonna have to try something. And the main fact, like I said, that they call and that they want to transform what they get back what they had before is from the time they call, they're conscious and they want to get back. They want to get back to a place where they can be satisfied with one another, have fun together. So, was there any during that time, even before we started, was there any aha ha moment? Was there any laughing? What was the stress level like?
Are you referring to when we started the sessions?
Yeah, before we started the session. Well,
Yes, as we know, in our culture, it's very difficult for men to want to seek further counsel. So
okay.
that was probably the main, like, natural thing as a man. You want to be like, I can solve the problem. I can fix the problem, like a hammer to a nail. But sometimes
Mhm.
you do need an extra hand, a female hand, to help put the nail in the wall, so to speak. So
Mm,
that was the main thing for at least myself.
my, how about you generally as a young individual, as a young woman, what was the stress factor like for you?
For me, the stress factor was pretty difficult. Like he said, there was an accident that happened in 2017. I got into a car accident. So things were very hard for me from then just because I couldn't really do many things for myself and I needed the help from him as well as my family. So I was
Mm,
already stressed out to begin with. But I found it became more stressful when I felt like I wasn't being heard. And yeah.
that's interesting because I hear that a lot too. Is the wives are speaking and they're not being heard. Yeah, a woman and a man also, but the wife want to be heard many times, not necessarily to fix anything, but I just wanted to listen to me. I want somebody that I can connect with, and you're the closest individual to me. So, at least hear what I'm saying. And Jason, as you mentioned before, maybe in our culture, yeah, us men, we don't want to reach out for help because we figure that we can fix it. Well, we've tried to fix it and it wasn't working. So here's the alternative. This is the last kick at the cat, and that's where individual usually, whether they go to a therapist, whether they go to a counselor, whether they come to a coach, we're all there trying to yeah, get them to a place where they can be functional again, where they can laugh again, right? So that's beautiful. So where are you? What transpired? What transpired during our session, even the first session, the second session? What transpired there?
For me, the first session, I was a little nervous. I'm not necessarily new to um, therapy, so to speak, coaching. So I was already like ready to dive in head first. Like I was excited because I'm like, okay, this may be the last resort, but that
Mm,
just shows that there is an up from here. So I was excited to learn more about my husband and to learn how to compromise properly and how to hear him and how to see how he feels and how I can
mm.
work with that.
That's beautiful. And as for you, Jason, what did you notice was changing as we had conversation after conversation?
I noticed that my wife was getting very emotional, explaining how she felt, and it seemed like she wasn't getting those explanations out beforehand.
Okay.
And for myself, I found initially I was a bit shy to share about myself, but I
Mm,
found strength in finding the right words to speak.
mm. Yeah, I remember that most times when the husband come on, they can be very quiet. Well, I'm not going to tell this guy my business. There's some things I want to say, but I don't want my wife to hear it right now. But as time goes on, I do find that the men, the husband, will slowly become vulnerable, slowly begin to express themselves. And what do you think the reason would be? What do you think that would cause you, Nathan, as a man talking to another man? What would cause you now to be say more vulnerable and to really express yourself like your wife had probably always wanted you to express?
It's very hard for guys to explain to each other emotionally because even from your own father as well, maybe you've seen him do all the hard work and not explain how he feels about the hard work. So
Right.
you learn from that behavior from the previous generation. So that's usually the initial problem with men trying to communicate how they feel.
Mm. And generally, how about you? How hard did you find it to really express yourself and to get to that place where you finally wanted to be?
I found it to be a little difficult because trying to find the words was hard for me because I felt like I have said it all before, but I found it to be different to actually say it with you as our coach because now I feel like there's somebody listening to me. And if he's not going to listen to me, maybe there's another way that can be explained to him to show him how I'm really feeling. And I felt that when we started our sessions together, I really felt heard. I felt like he was really hearing me for the first time, and it made me feel good.
So interesting. Thank you for sharing. Do you feel what you were saying in the session was something that you've been saying all along?
Yes.
The-
I'm
the-
sure there was other things that haven't been said that made it easier to talk about with your guidance. So that definitely helped a lot too.
reason I asked that question again, I had an individual here some time back. They were in my office here, and the wife was saying certain things to the husband, and the husband was saying, "Well, this is the first time that I'm hearing this." And she said, "Really? I've been trying to tell you this for how long now, and now you tell me this is the first time you're hearing it." It's as if sometimes us men will have our ears closed, don't hear what we really need to hear or what we really should hear because we have to do something about it. But there's something about when you actually sit in an area where you can speak openly, be very open with what you have to say. And now because you're in that, we try to make it a safe space because when individuals come to me and when they sit with me, whether in my office or over Zoom, I'm not there to judge them no matter what stage that they're in. I'm not there to criticize them. I'm not there to make them feel bad or to feel belittled and to feel lack of confidence and low self-esteem. A lot of the times they're coming to me or they're coming to coaches and counselors with that already. So I don't need to make them feel any worse than they feel, but we're there just to basically try to get them to the next level. So, how long, after we started, I know we had quite a few months together, but about when did you really begin to realize the change that you wanted to see? When did you realize that?
I say for me, believe it or not, after the first session, we were able to actually talk about it, and it was a different type of talking versus all the other times we've talked before. So I already felt like things were looking up on my end.
Okay. How about you, Jason? What did you notice even that was more impactful, and how did that even affect not just you and the wife, but what effect did that even have on your children now, the small ones that you had at that time?
Well, first off, I'll say around like the third or fourth session is when things started to be more apparent to me, the issues that we had.
Okay.
And as well, family wise, it let me see that there's more of a role that I can do in
Hmm.
regards to my relationship with my wife that will affect my children, especially
Mm,
this like mindfulness. I think it's the main thing to see
right.
that, oh, my wife is feeling this. Maybe I wasn't paying attention to how she was saying it. So now
Okay.
I'm taking into account even just the small little things that we say each and every day, even hearing that from my children, especially relative to my daughter, and to see how she would grow up in that situation for herself too.
Mm, mm. Well, a lot of us men need to hear that. So I'm hearing now that you are a little bit more emotionally connected than you were before. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
You're listening more now than you did before. So it's a question here. So if you wasn't listening before, what were you doing before?
Doing the typical caveman ugh ugh, you know.
So some of us men need to know. So if we're not listening, what are we doing? Were you on the phone? Where was your mind? You know what I mean?
That's great.
So that's interesting. So how did invested in yourself now help you now with your future self? Is this something that you would recommend to couples that are struggling, or even men that are struggling in their relationship with the journey that we took? And can't remember exactly the journey that we labeled. I generally usually have a label for every journey. I didn't go back to check yours when a couple comes to me. So, what would be the name of this journey, right? So, if you had to have named that journey, what would be the name of that journey be, generally, or Jason?
Hmm.
Uh, for me, I just want to state that there's lots of time wasted arguing
Mm,
about things, and we limit ourselves in the future that we do have. So it's best to come to terms as soon as possible because you're gonna realize how much time you've wasted arguing in your
mm.
life when you could have had those moments to just be nice with your wife or family or even just anyone in your life. So I think a good way to label it is therapy, especially with you, Benito, is a time saver for the future. It's like an investment in your future with your wife or
Mhm.
husband.
No, thank you for that. How about you? How about you, generally? How did it, that's Jason's thought. Yeah. How about you? How did investing in yourself help you now with your future self?
It honestly allowed me to get closer to him, to hear him, and to let him lead as the man that he's supposed to. It
Mm,
allowed me to step back and I trust him more. Like I don't feel scared to let him lead, or I don't feel scared to let him do things that he's supposed to be doing or that he wants to do. Before, I would be scared and I would want to do everything myself because that's what I'm used to. That's what I was raised in.
mm.
Whereas now it's like I don't have to do any of that. I just sit back and roll with it, which feels nice.
I love what you just said. You're at the stage, at the place um, where you can let him lead. And in order to let him lead, in order for a wife to let the man lead, what's one thing that you think that she's actually looking for deep down?
For someone to listen to her emotions and meet those emotional needs.
Mm. And generally, for you to allow him to let him lead, what's the big factor there that really changed to let him lead?
Surprisingly, it was our sessions, but it was also the fact that he was very receptive to everything that we learned while you were our coach.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing him put those things that he learned into action, and having our little date nights and just talking at night, or it's like he said, time wasted arguing. So when we're not arguing, I feel stress free, I feel happy, I feel relaxed. And for me, being relaxed with him is something that's really big. So if
Mm-hmm.
I'm relaxed, I'm able to focus better, and I'm able to just sit back and not argue and not feel uncomfortable. And those are things for me that have always been hard for me to work on. And the fact that it's now coming easy feels good.
Right. No, beautiful. And what I'm hearing too is, correct me if I'm wrong here. Do you find now, as a couple, each of you, you're being more authentic now than you were before?
I would say more is revealed rather than saying authentic, because I feel like that's feeling like you weren't being honest before, but
Okay.
to a detriment instead of just like as I said, revealing more, showing more rather than holding back.
Mm.
Which, if you have a lack of authenticity, that would be a problem.
Okay. How about you, generally? Do you find that you're now you can be more authentic now at who you are and where you're concerned?
I find I'm definitely able to be myself more than
Mm.
before. Like you said, with holding back,
Right.
I'm not holding back like I was before. And it's nice because you just it's freeing, if that makes sense. Like it
Mm.
feels right.
Okay. Okay. So, you as a wife, a beautiful young lady that has taken up the challenge that you did, what would you want to say to wives out there? And Jason, I'm going to ask you the same thing too, but generally, what would you have to say to the wives out there that are struggling, they're feeling disconnected, they're not feeling love? What words would you want to leave with them?
I would honestly say don't give up. Relationships take a lot of work, and it is a journey.
Hmm.
It's not just linear. Like it's gonna take some time. It's gonna be some hills. Um, Obviously, invest in coaching if possible, because it will save you a lot of time in the future. But not only that, you'll also grow deeper with your husband, and you'll learn a lot more about him than you ever thought you could have without the coaching.
Mm, beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. How about you, Jason? What would you want to say to those men that are, they're timid, they're reluctant to talk to somebody and express their feelings? Because I remember when you came in at first, you were very quiet at first, but then you just opened up, and it was just great. But yeah, what would you want to leave and tell these men out there?
It's very important to understand there's different parts of your wife, her psyche that you probably haven't seen, especially in therapy. It's
Hmm.
almost like looking at a reflection of a reflection too. It's a very eye-opening experience to have, and it's definitely necessary if you feel like you're maybe even close to your wits end with your wife, but you know there's still something to hold on to. So
Hmm.
I would advise to seek Benito's help in this regard because he is very mature in his way of handling these situations that uh, we as men are going through.
All right. Well, thank you so much, both of you. It's been a privilege, been an honor to be able to serve both of you in that capacity. And yeah, and me every now and again we give a phone call. That's just what I do. I give a phone call to check in. Yeah, they're not coaching with me right now, but I'll always give a quick phone call, see how things are going, or a quick inspirational email just to touch base. So I thank you both for coming in this afternoon, and continue to inspire one another, continue to love one another. What you're doing in the home and the connection that you folks have right now. One of the most important things in the family and the home is to realize that your children will be mirroring the relationship that they see. If they see mom and dad fighting and dad always raising his voice and just fighting with mom, the son is going to think, well, that's the way I'm supposed to be when I grow up, when I have the relationship. And if the daughter sees the mother just being so quiet and timid and not having anything to say, or shouting at the top of her voice back at the husband, then she will feel, well, maybe that's the way to react in a relationship. So I commend both of you for where you were to where you are now, and the and what you're actually doing within your home, and actually giving the children the benefits of, hey, this is how a couple is supposed to live. This is how mom is supposed to talk to dad. This is how dad is supposed to speak to mom. So commend both of you all, and thanks for joining this evening. And God bless both of you. All right. Okay. I'm going to be just touching a little bit here. I usually try to make this about half an hour. Like I've told Minister Roshane Douglas, I always believe less is more. And I know folks' times is precious, so I might have to do a part 2 on this. And it's about the authenticity in your relationship, that word that comes up every now and again in your relationship. How authentic are you really being? And as husband and wife, one thing about I think we should have in the back of our mind is that when we come into this relationship, we must realize that we are here and we are motivated to serve. Husband, you're there to serve your wife, and wife, you're there to serve your husband. We have to be motivated to serve one another. If we're motivated to serve one another, I believe it will reduce a lot of challenges, because it's not big you and little me, but we're all on the same page. We're all trying to get to the same place. We all have the same values. So Ephesians chapter 5 and 25, as many of you faith-based or Christians know about, it says, husband, love your wives. God wants a man to love that woman like he loves himself. And he gave an example, even as Christ also loved the church. And he said, and he gave himself for it. Husband must be able to give themselves to their wife. Husband must be there to be able to sacrifice. I've worked in the oil and gas for how many years, and there's a lot of sacrifice that had to be made. But I had to be traveling every week at least 5 hours. So every week I'm doing at least 10 hours on the road. I'm working at least 75 to 80 hours for the week. But I wasn't just doing it just for me, but I'm doing it for the family. And I wouldn't even consider a sacrifice, because man, a husband, it's your obligation to serve. It's your obligation to make sure that the wife needs are being met. It's your obligation to make sure that the children needs are being met. And I think I said this one time before. My mother told my wife, don't you ever feel sorry for your husband when you're going to work. I don't care if he's got to work 13 hours, 20 hours, 100 hours. Don't you feel sorry for that man. It's his obligation. He signed up for this. You just encourage him, tell him, you know what, honey, I'm praying for you. But don't say, oh, honey, yeah, I know you're tired. Yeah, maybe you should stay home for work. Wives, just get that out of your vocabulary. You let him know, you know what, hey, we're in this together, and I know you can do it. And so when we're motivated to serve, you know what, we're going to encourage one another. We're not going to be tearing down one another, but we are going to encourage one another. So we're going to talk about a little bit about authenticity for about the next, I'm going to just break this down maybe for about the next 10 minutes. And there'll probably be a part 2 here off of this. But when it comes to authenticity, what is that? Authenticity is a individual. They share the same values, the same goals, the same outlook. They work together to build a strong, godly family. We try to raise our children likewise. And, the wheels fall off the relationship many times in the early stage. Why? Because, some things and some conversations that were had and some things that were said wasn't actually true. There was time, maybe the husband wasn't being authentic in that relationship. Time when the wife herself wasn't showing up and being authentic in that relationship. And so the importance of being authentic in your relationship with your partner, you cannot underestimate that. If you knew what you would risk when you're not being authentic, there's a lot of things that show up. I mean, we can name them. If you're not being authentic, there's dishonesty. dishonesty that shows up. Criticism will shows up. There's a lot of other things that will show up if you're not being authentic. But when you choose to be authentic, there's something beautiful about being authentic in life. We will play various roles in our lives, as your employee, as a spouse, as a friend, a family member, and based on these different roles that we are playing, how authentic are you in the role as a father? How authentic are you in the role as a husband? How authentic are you in the world as a boss and at your workplace? How really are you showing up? Are you trying to pretend, or are you trying to fit in? I read a story about an individual that was in this big business, and he was driving home one day from work, and he looked into the mirror because he would dress a certain way because of this position that he had, but deep down in his spirit, deep down in his in his soul, he just wasn't feeling satisfied. And as he began to look up in that mirror, sometimes you got to look at the man in the mirror and the woman in the mirror. You got to ask yourself a few questions. Sometimes might be uncomfortable, but as he looked in the mirror, he was uncomfortable with who he was seeing, because where he was working, he was not being authentic. And if he was not being authentic there, then it's like you carry that spirit home, as you carry that attitude home, where you're not the person that you need to be. He was trying to be somebody. It's like the business was trying to mold him into somebody that he was not. And when they try to mold you into somebody that you're not, it will frustrate you. It will depress you. It will make you wonder, am I even in the right job? Am I even in the right place? And if you're going through that season in your life where you feel that your authenticity is not showing up like it should, your authenticity in your relationship is not where it should be, then you have to take stock in yourself. You have to ask yourself a question. Am I going to live like this for the rest of my life? Am I going to be miserable like this for the rest of my life? I mean, I don't have to put my wife through this. I need to search myself and get back to the woman that had married. And many times as time goes on, we might change. And if we're changing, if we're growing, we can grow but still be authentic. We can grow and mature. We can grow and become wise. But how you were in the beginning stage of your relationship, I've heard where individuals, they acted a certain way when they were courting, but as soon as the ring went on their finger, as soon as they got together and the bank accounts went together, it seemed like the husband or the wife, there would be a shift, because they were going after what they wanted. They were going after what they could get, but love wasn't really in the picture. So they were not being authentic in the initial stage in the relationship. And if you're not being authentic, if you have not been authentic in the initial stage of your relationship, then that will explain why you have challenges now. That's where the conversation has to be really open now and really be honest, so you can try to get to that place where you need to be. So this individual, when he looked in the mirror, he actually ended up changing jobs because he refused to live in an environment where he's always trying to pretend to be somebody that he is not. And if we're not careful, husbands and wives are in your relationship, if you're not careful, sometimes the wife will try to mold the husband into somebody that he is not. This is who you marry, honey. This is who you married, and this is what you got to live with right now. You can't try to change him. This is who he was. And men, when you that are married, you're trying to change the wife into somebody that who she's not. If we are individually authentic to who we need to be, then I believe even in spite of our differences, we can learn to connect on a different level. We can allow to raise this relationship to the next level, rather than us, pretending to be somebody that we are not. God don't like fake. You got to know that God does not like fake. He wants you to show up the real individual. You might not be at the place where you need to be, but still show up real. I talked to an individual here recently, and it's as if they were a bit scared to talk to God. And I said, you know what? Take God as a friend. Take him as an individual that when you speak to him, you can tell him anything. If you're frustrated and somebody is just ticking you off and your husband is just being miserable or vice versa with the wife, you can tell God exactly how you feel. Let him take control. But many times what will happen, we will try to fix that situation. Many times the situation is not broken. It's just a different season that we're going through in life. Your mindset has changed because of what you might be going through. As we progress, and ladies, as you get over to 40 years old, as some have told me before, there's a different way of thinking. Men, as you get older, there's a different way of thinking. But as you think differently, don't become a person that who you're not. Don't become a person that your wife or that your husband don't recognize. Still be your authentic self. So your authentic self is who you really are deep down inside of your soul. It's the part of you many times that don't care what anybody think. Now, don't misunderstand me what I'm saying. You should care what your wife think, and you should take criticism, godly criticism, constructive criticism from your wife. But when you're being your authentic self, you know what? Sometimes there's some folks that's not going to like you for being authentic, but there's some folks also that's going to like you for being authentic. But you should like I said, you should take heed to those that are close around you that has the good intentions for you. Not everybody have good intentions for you. So learning how to be your authentic self, it's an essential part of building a meaningful relationship. Authenticity happen when your words and when your actions and when your behavior, when everything matches up, that is your core identity. That is who you really are. I was trying to think about the Bible. So who in the Bible was not being authentic? And there's many examples there. But the one that came to my mind was in Genesis chapter 12 when Abraham, there was a famine in the land, and Abraham went down to Egypt, and he was afraid that the Egyptian would see his beautiful wife Sarah. She was pleasing to the eyes. She was well liked by those around her because of her beauty. And then Pharaoh looked down one day from his palace or whatever, and seeing them, there was some public display that was going on. Abraham was having fun with his wife. Us men and ladies, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of public display, even in public. Your wife wants to know, your husband wants to know, you know what, you can hold my hand every now and again. You know what? You can just wrap your hands around me, even in public. We are one, and many times individuals might shy away from that because they've never had that love before. They were never held like that before. I remember some time ago in a certain assembly, this individual that I was in, they didn't like being hugged, and I said, "Well, you're going to have to get over that." We were good friends, and after church, I would just go over and greet her and just give her a godly hug, right? And after a while, it didn't become nothing. But many times, an individual, that's who they are, but is that who they really want to be as life goes on, as they get older? Everybody wants to be loved. And I'll be walking in the mall sometime, and my wife will just grab my hands, or I will grab her hands when we're going out. If we're on a cruise or on a holiday, I will just grab her hand. Why? I want to let her know, you know what, we're still connected. Men, you got to hold your wife's hand sometime. They shouldn't have to tell you to hold their hand. You should be more than willing to hold their hand. So there was a bit of public display that was going on between Abraham and Sarah, but Abraham wasn't being authentic now for a while, because Abraham, as you know the story in Genesis chapter 12, he lied to Pharaoh, and he told his wife, "If anybody asks you who you are, tell them that you are my sister." And then Pharaoh, as you know, took Abraham's wife, and God brought brought a disease. Amen. God just plagued the house because of Abraham's wife. But what the moral of the story here I'm trying to say is that Abraham ceased to be real. He ceased to be true to himself. When you cease to be true to yourself, there's other challenges that's going to come up. There's things that's going to come up in your life that's going to gnaw at your conscience. There's things that's going to come up that's going to make you feel uncomfortable. But when you are authentic, when you are real to who you are, when you stop pretending, then I believe that things will begin to align on the level that it needs to be. Public display, folks. It's okay to have a little bit of public display. I mean, you want to take it to the next level, then you wait until you go home and take it behind the bedroom. But there's nothing wrong with a little peck on the cheek or peck on the lips when you're in public if you feel like it. Let the world know that you're in love. What are you ashamed of? What are you hiding, right? Stop pretending. Be who God wants you to be. Be the husband that God wants you to be. Be the wife that God wants you to be. Stop pretending. Love that woman. Love that man. Because if anything happened to him today, you probably would be living a life of regret tomorrow. I just want to end on this note here, and we'll take it further on to be continued here down the road. In order for connection to happen, we have to allow ourselves to be seen, to be heard, but to be really seen. I'll repeat that. In order for connection to happen between you and your wife, we have to allow ourselves to be seen. A wife wants to be seen. A husband also wants to be seen. A wife wants to be heard. A husband also wants to be heard, but they really want to be seen. They want to know that I'm here, and because I'm here, you are here with me. I'm going to end on that tonight. There's so much more that we can talk about. The being authentic spurs success, tips for being benefits of living your authentic life, different things that's incorporated in just who you are and just being authentic. So I'm just going to stop here tonight. Again, I want to thank Minister Shane Douglas for helping out in the background, as always. Pastor Clive and Lady Melody, also for supporting the ministry. These individuals believe in evangelism. They believe in reaching the world, and they're the one actually that pushed me, folks, out of my comfort zone, because I wasn't doing this before. I've done retreats before, I've done marriage seminars before, but not on this level where you don't know who is listening, and so many out there. So I hope this has been a blessing to you. Again, what was I talking about? Just being authentic in your relationship. You'll step it up to another level, and you'll see how God will continue to bless. Your children will see what authenticity is like for a man. Your children will see what authenticity is for the mother that's shown up in a relationship. So God bless each and every one of you as we tune in again. Continuation next Friday, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. It's all about transforming your relationship. It's all about love, connection, intimacy, communication, and so much more. God bless each and every one of you. Amen. Have a wonderful evening.
Help me. Come on. I said, come on.
This is High Ground Gospel Radio. Thank you for listening to Transforming Your Relationships. Join us again next Friday at 5 p.m. MST for another program. This is Higher Ground Gospel Radio, reaching out the highest mountain and the lowest valley, making the time 5:45.